Hello guys, good morning everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I hope I am audible. If I am audible, just let me know. Audible, right? Chali. ठीक है, I would be speaking a little bit slow today because I have a little flu, right? Viral है थोड़ा सा, तो I would be speaking. If I am audible in a appropriate manner, do tell me. ऐसा तो नहीं है आवाज़ कम आ रही है? एक बार बता दो, इतनी पिच ठीक है? हाँ जी, एक बार कंफर्म कर दो, इतनी पिच ठीक है. चलो स्टार्ट करें आज की एनालिसिस, राइट? सो ये एक नई न्यूज़ है, आपको पता ही है, भजन लाल शर्मा विल बी द न्यू सीएम ऑफ राजस्थान, राइट? एंड दिस इज द मेन न्यूज़ दैट वी हैव. रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन rises to 5.5% in November. Now let us discuss certain aspect to it, right? जो कि बड़े ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. Now when we talk about retail inflation, we are talking about consumer price index. हम किसकी बात कर रहे हैं? हम बात कर रहे हैं कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स की, राइट? सो दिस इज द थिंग दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. लेट अस. टेक्नोलॉजी का एक फायदे तो है कि चल भी रहती है, अच्छा भी है, बट है कि कई बार हैंग भी हो जाता है, राइट? नाउ द स्क्रीन हैज हैंग्ड. ओके, लेट मी सी. ओके, consumer price index, right? So if we talk about consumer price index, there are certain things that we need to understand. Is let me give you certain bases कि इसका एक बेस ईयर पता होना चाहिए हमें. इसका बेस ईयर कौन सा है? 2012. दूसरी चीज, जब हम सीपीआई की बात करते हैं, आजकल जो डेटा आता है एनएसएफ के थ्रू, दैट इज कमिंग फॉर सीपीआई रूरल, सीपीआई अर्बन एंड सीपीआई कंबाइंड, राइट? अभी जो रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन की बात करी जा रही है, ये इसी के बारे में बातचीत करी जा रही है, कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स कंबाइन के बारे में. एंड वन ऑफ द थिंग वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इज, बिफोर दिस कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स कंबाइंड, the earlier method from where we used to calculate inflation, it was not CPI, it was wholesale price index. So there are two ways in which we can measure the inflation. One is the wholesale price index, another one is the consumer price index, right? So these are the two variants that we have in context of finding the inflation. There is also one another method, but that hasn't been discussed and used in our, if we talk about in our analysis of inflation, which is known as the PPI, producer price index, but it hasn't been used so far, right? One of the another method that you must have heard about and read about as well to measure the inflation, that is the GDP deflator, right? I think इसके बारे में सबको पता होगा that GDP deflator is nominal upon real GDP, right? So these are the aspects I think everybody knows and understand. Now let us come to this WPI and CPI. Now when I talk about WPI, WPI is the wholesale price index, and it is in context of what are the prices that are received by the wholesaler. Now this is the important point that we have to understand. Here we are talking about the prices which have been received by the wholesaler. And when I talk about consumer price index, in here consumer price index, we talk about the prices that are being paid by the consumer. So these are the basic definition that you guys need to understand and remember as well. Here we talk about the prices that have been received by the wholesaler, and here we talk about the prices paid by the consumer, and this is the thing that we measure over a period of time, and finally we come to conclusion that what is the rate of inflation. Second thing that we have to understand is, when I talk about wholesale price index, it is only a goods based index, right? But when I talk about CPI, it is the goods and services based index, right? So here all the two elements are counted in, that is goods and services. But when I talk about WPI, it only count for the goods based index. That is why India, or we can say government of India, shifted from WPI to CPI in order to have a better understanding of the rate of inflation. One of the thing you have to understand is, along with CPI, there is another sub we can say part that is released along with CPI, that is consumer food price index. This is the point you have to also remember, that consumer food price index is also released separately. Now question is, why is CFPI released? So you need to understand one thing is, CFPI is very important in order to check the volatility in the prices of the food articles. This is very important, right? Now, one of the thing you have to understand that when I talk about inflation, the most inflationary products are food and fuel, right? So that is the thing that we need to measure separately as well. So in this regard, this is the price index that is being measured separately, what we call it as the consumer food price index. I hope this point is clear to everybody. And apart from this, there is this CPI industrial worker, agricultural laborers, right, and rural laborers. These are also another index that is being released. अगर हम बात करते हैं CPI की तरफ से, पहले एक और भी किया जाता था CPI urban non manual employees, but it has been discontinued. This is the point you have to understand, that has been now discontinued, but these are the CPIs that are also released. These are the specific bases, or we can say specific indices that are being released. Now, this, if it is clear, do let me know, because it is very, very important, and you need to understand and remember one thing, that inflation is one of the very important and good topics of UPSC, and they have over the years quite frankly asked a lot of questions from this aspect of inflation, right? So it is our very much kartavya and farz that we need to remember this basic definitions of WPI and CPI, because it helps a lot. One of the aspect that you have to also remember is that a certain amount of inflation is very much important and good for the growth of a country, right? This is the aspect that you need to understand. Moreover, when I talk about how inflation is being measured, it is not something like measured, let's say if I have to find the inflation of December 2023, I will compare it with November 2023. No. If I have to find the inflation of December 2023, I would have to compare it with December 2022, and then I would have to compare it with the base year price. I would have to compare it with the base year that has been set up for the CPI, or if we have to talk about WPI, then we have to seek for the base year of WPI. This is how inflation is being calculated, and this is also known as the base effect. This is also known as the base effect, right? So अगर ये आपको point समझ में आ जाते हैं, then whole thing becomes a very much a easy situation and becomes a cakewalk. Okay. Now the next topic that we're going to discuss is, directly I'm going to go to the editorial page. Now this is an article related to Article 370. We have already discussed this in detail. One of the two aspects that they are trying to say over here that I will be letting you know is that one of the things that shall have been discussed in the yesterday's Supreme Court judgment was that it shall have told the timeline when the statehood would be restored to the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. This is the important point that has been missing. If we talk about from yesterday's verdict, yes, they talked about that there would be elections that shall be upheld by this date, but they did not talk about when the restoration of assembly would happen. That is very important for the hopes and aspirations of the people, and this is also very important to do as well, right? So ये एक important aspect है जो हमें पता होना चाहिए. Now moving to the next part. अब यहाँ पे एक आर्टिकल इतने इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? अब ये एक आर्टिकल बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है. जीन थेरेपी ऑफर्स न्यू होप फॉर दोज विद सिकल सेल डिसीज. One of the important point, let me tell you as well, when we talk about sickle cell anemia, this year budget had also specific provisions and the mission that they want to remove sickle cell anemia, right? जब हम सिकल सेल अनीमिया की बात करते हैं तो इट इज बेसिकली अ जेनेटिक डिसऑर्डर और जेनेटिक डिसीज ड्यूरिंग विच द blood carrying hemoglobin or the cells or the genes that carry are basically sickle in nature, right? They are not in a perfect shape that is required. As a result, there is obstruction of flow of blood or oxygen. As a result, there is a lot of problem that is being faced by the patients who are diagnosed with this sickle cell anemia. Now, as a result, the companies in we can say Europe has basically come up with a certain, we can say a certain cure that is using the technique of gene editing technology. Gene editing technology in order to treat this sickle cell problem. So this is the aspect that has been discussed over here. Very, very interesting and very, very important as well. कि पहले क्या होता था? You used to do it by bone marrow transplantation, right? So this was the thing that was being used. That was bone marrow transplantation. But now what would be the things that would be happening is that they would try to edit the gene. I think everybody has heard about this technology. This have been in CRISPR अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, right? This has been in news as well. This was asked in UPSC as well. So this is the way through which they are trying to use the sickle cell anemia by having a certain technique by using gene editing instead of going for the bone marrow transplantation, right? तो ये एक चीज है जो इन्होंने डिस्कवर करी है, and that is also very important, and it is also very much we can say it is important breakthrough as well. Write down the name of these two gene therapies. These are very important from your examination point of view. The name are Casgevy and Lifigina, right? So these are the two names I can highlight as well. One is the CASGEVY, second one is LYFGENIA. So this is basically to treat the sickle cell disease in patients over the age of 12. So ये एक point है जो आप लोगों को पता होना चाहिए, and this is the point that you have to remember and learn as well, that these are these two gene we can say therapies that have been employed, right guys? Okay. Now this is not that much important. ठीक है, यहाँ पे भी ऐसा कुछ important नहीं है. Now this is very interesting. Sorry. This is very interesting. This is the terminology that has been used over here, anarcho-capitalism. Now, this term has recently gained popularity with Javier Milei, a self-proclaimed anarcho-capitalist winning the presidential elections of Argentina, right? So this is a philosophy that you have to understand, and very important as well. Those who are of various backgrounds, right? You never know, UPSC can ask any question now. You have to be aware of political theory. So this is a part of political theory, and we have seen in prelims a lot of questions that are being asked from these aspects. So let's try to discuss what is this anarcho-capitalism, right? This is a good term, that is anarcho-capitalism. First of all, now there are two words that has been integrated from in this particular one word. That one word is anarchism, another word is capitalism. Now I think everybody knows that what is capitalism. It is a free market structure, right? It is a competitive market economy. You have a competitive class, that is a capitalist class, that is the capitalist, and you have the working class. Now in this capitalism, even though there is a free market economy, still the police and judicial services are given by the state itself, right? The state is the one that is basically giving the judicial and the police services. Now when I talk about anarchism, anarchism is complete abolition of the state. Very interesting point. Complete abolition of the state. कोई state ही होनी नहीं चाहिए, so that people could have liberty. This is the main aspect with which this anarchism principle runs, कि यार हमें किसी भी तरह का law and order चाहिए ही नहीं. Complete abolition of law, complete abolition of state. People would try to live अपने आप से, अगर हमको रहने दिया जाएगा तो वो अपने आप में लिबर्टी भी मेंटेन रखेंगे और एक दूसरे के साथ इक्वालिटी भी मेंटेन कर रखेंगे. But this concept, when we heard about it, that there is no state, so there could be a very much chaotic situation, and it could have a law and order implications as well. So as a result, when we try to combine these two terminologies, we get a terminology. जेवियर मेली, जो कि अभी जिन्होंने प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन जीता अर्जेंटीना का, दैट इज अ वी कैन से अनार्को कैपिटलिस्ट. द वर्ड कम्स टू बी अनार्को कैपिटलिज्म. इसका मतलब क्या है? स्टेट का रोल नहीं है, बट इट वुड बी अ फ्री मार्केट इकोनॉमी, यस. एंड व्हाट अबाउट पुलिस एंड जुडिशियल सर्विसेज? दैट पुलिस एंड जुडिशियल सर्विसेज वुड बी गिवन बाय whom? By the private market forces. Very interesting point. Now it would be like a client based service, where if I want certain protection, if I want certain a legal structure, then I could go to a particular company who will be providing me protection and who will be providing me judicial services. And if I'm not liking their work, I can go to a different company who can give me a different, better police or judicial services. So can't you see if this particular type of thing is in the system, where we could have different legal laws, we could have judicial laws, and there could be, we can say, not much synchronization in different things, then it would be a very interesting and it would be a very difficult situation अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं अनार्को कैपिटलिज्म के बीच में, राइट. सो दिस इज द पॉलिटिकल फिलॉसफी दैट दे हैव ट्राइड टू हाईलाइट. इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कंसेप्ट कि सिर्फ प्राइवेट फोर्सेज होंगी. मान लो कि आज मुझे कोई पुलिस और जुडिशियल सर्विस चाहिए, मैं कंपनी के पास गया, वो मुझे लेट्स से एक स्पेसिफिक अमाउंट में सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, राइट. If I do not like their services, I can go to another company, right? So this will create a competition, and one of the things that they are trying to say, the anarcho capitalist, is that it would lead to the betterment of quality of police and judicial service. This is the debate that they have tried to highlight over here, that it will lead to quality of police and judicial services. So this is the interesting point that they have tried to highlight over here, right? So you never know what type of questions UPSC can ask, but this is the main theme that has been discussed, that is of, अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं अनार्को कैपिटलिस्ट को लेके. अनार्को कैपिटलिस्ट के बारे में ये कहा जाता है कि अगर मान लो कि मेरी पॉकेट अलाउ करेगी, पुलिस और जुडिशियल सर्विसेज तो पॉकेट के अकॉर्डिंग होगा, उसी के लिए बेटरमेंट होगी जो रिच होगा या जिसकी कैपेसिटी होगी पे करने की. सो द पुअर वुड बी द वंस दैट वुड बी सफरिंग एट द हैंड्स ऑफ दिस पॉलिटिकल फिलोसॉफिकल स्ट्रक्चर, दैट इज अनार्को कैपिटलिस्ट. बट द डिफेंडर्स ऑफ अनार्को कैपिटलिस्ट आर सेइंग दैट दिस विल नॉट हैपन लाइक दिस. When we talk about रिच तो बहुत कम होते हैं, मेजॉरिटी के लिए ही फैसला लिया जाता है जब हम पुलिस की बात करते हैं, जुडिशियल सर्विसेज की बात करते हैं. सो एज अ रिजल्ट इट विल नॉट हैम्पर ओवरऑल मेजॉरिटी if we talk about whether it will lead to these kind of situations where there would be a certain section of people that would be able to benefit given their paying capacity. I hope you are able to clear and understand this point. Anarcho capitalism, it is a very interesting political philosophy that there would be private market forces and they would be the ones that would be providing us the protection. Okay. नाउ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग, राज्यसभा ने एक बिल पास किया है फॉर द अपॉइंटमेंट ऑफ चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर एंड इलेक्शन कमिश्नर्स. सी वन थिंग यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इज before March 2023 there was no procedure that was there for the appointment of chief election commissioners. So what happened was Supreme Court gave up with the ruling that until the time Parliament appoints a law, so there would be a committee that would be recommending the name for chief election commissioner and election commissioners, and in that committee we would be having Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India, right? So what happened was now government has come up with the bill. Now they have replaced this CGI with whom? A cabinet minister. So there would be two people from the ruling party that would be deciding who would be election commissioners, and there would be one leader of opposition. So as a result, obviously you can see the loophole that is there, that it would be the majority of the ruling party that will decide who will be the elected to the post of chief election commissioner and election commissioners. As the result, it is saying that it is violative of constitution because it is not in the principle and lines of free and fair election, because there could be certain scenarios because that person has been appointed by a specific ruling party, so it can help that political party in any elections whether of center and states, right? So there are a lot of things which can be done by the election commissioner in order to favor a particular party. So that is the thing that has happened over here. As a result, the opposition parties are not happy and they are saying it is violating the constitution, right? बड़ा सिंपल है, पर अभी राज्यसभा ने पास किया है, आगे देखते हैं इसके रिलेटेड क्या होता है. ओके, ठीक है, यहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं है. Wait a minute guys, let the screen come, right? It's taking a little time, wait for the screen to come. वैसे इससे ज्यादा कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट था नहीं, एक इंडेक्स ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन की बात करनी थी. It's not coming, right? So let us wait. In the meanwhile, if it comes, then we will try to discuss. But this was a major newspaper that we had in today's session, right? The major news that was related to gene editing technology. I gave you the two gene therapies that has been approved as well. Second thing we discussed was related to WPI and CPI, very important. Third thing we discussed was related to game changer. Fourth thing was the chief election commissioner and their office. Fifth thing was important to political this philosophy, that is anarcho capitalism, right? So these are the things that have been discussed over here. I think there would be one article, if we are able to see if this thing opens, then we will be able to discuss, right? Okay, Right, guys? So one thing I want to tell you before I end the session, I don't think it's coming back. So today's newspaper was a very simple newspaper, right? So nothing that much drastic, है ना? इतना ज़्यादा कुछ difficult भी नहीं था, easy newspaper था. आपको लगा होगा थोड़ा जल्दी खत्म हो गया, because it has been a easy newspaper if we talk about today, right? One of the thing you have to also understand is, जितना मुझे याद आ रहा है, एक urban flood mitigation project start हो रहा है अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं चेन्नई में. Can anyone tell me what are the reasons for the floods in Chennai? We have always seen this particular situation. Can anyone tell me? Okay. Lack of proper planning. और क्या reasons हो सकते हैं? हाँ जी. What could be the other reasons for the proper, we can say, the problem of flooding in Chennai? Concrete jungle. Okay. See, one of the thing we have to understand is, जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, we are talking about situation in Chennai, the major problem is concretization of roads. See, this is also the thing happening. So you have the concrete roads now, it is not able to absorb the water, and it is also creating a problem for the underground level as well. This is one of the problems. Second thing is, yes, we are absolutely right, there is not enough urban planning, so that is why clogging is one of the main reasons that has been found to be the problem for urban flooding. Yes, this is the urban planning ka problem hai. Third thing you have to understand is that there has been encroachment in certain landscape and important natural landscape that were there. We have seen that there have been various places in entire country that there was used to be certain lakes, now that has been encroached, and over there you have constructed residential complex and commercial complex. But what happens is, nature को पता है, nature find its way, right? If the water knows that which path it used to be, it will be accumulated over that region as well. So what we see, the areas that were initially in the part of our lakes, now they have been constructed and taken over by big buildings. But that is the problem that we are witnessing, because it is the urban encroachment that we are leading to. As a result, the whole situation is in a mess. That is why government is coming up with a certain project where we can start removing this urban flooding. It has to be the participation and awareness of both state and central government, so that they could have a proper let's say solution for this. Because in the upcoming time, in the context of climate change, there would be, if we can talk about, is बहुत सारे extreme events देखने को मिल सकते हैं, like floods and droughts, and we have to be ready for this situation. We cannot have something like this happening on the ground, that is this extreme flooding that we witness, right? And one of the thing is that as soon we can say the temperature will increase, the severity of these floods will also increase, right? So we have to be prepared, otherwise we will be leading, or we will be looking at a really big disaster that could take a particular state or a country a few years backward as well. So one of the thing is, the municipalities, the state and the center needs to come together and make sure that these type of problems do not emerge if there is a certain natural disaster. I hope this point is clear to everybody, and we are done with the today's analysis. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. And thank you for the suggestion, Mohsina Mohammed. ये वायरल है वैसे, ये नॉर्मल फ्लू इशू नहीं है, राइट? दिस इज अ वायरल, ठीक है? सीजन चेंज होने का वायरल है ये, सो इट विल बी बेटर, राइट? डोंट वरी. Okay, guys. So thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye. And we will see each other tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Till then, take care. Enjoy.